So the scan's done. How many scans was that?
Here's an example of top-down view of the scans we've taken. These chunks, one bundle.
So how are we gonna put all this data together? So today we're with Chris, who works at Leica, and he has brought a very special piece of technology that I've just been oogling over for many, many years here. As you know, we like to recreate like digital environments in many ways. Sometimes we'll take like an HDR scan of an environment to project lighting and materials and reflections onto digital characters. Other times, like in anime self-driving cars, we'll like photo scan an entire environment with like a drone and stitch all the photos together and map it out to create a virtual environment. But Chris here has brought a special tool that can kind of do all that in one.
So this is the Leica BLK 360. It's a 3D scanner using LiDAR. It's also got HDR imagery capabilities, typically used more in the construction space and capturing 3D scenes, but to a couple millimeter accuracy. But now we're starting to get into getting some traction in the visual effects industry, and that's why we kind of teamed up with you guys to try and check out some of those workflows.
So our goal for today is to photo scan our studio and the loading dock and basically get a 3D model and a digital recreation of our entire workspace for further use. Previously, when we film a video like Boston Dynamics, for example, when we have to render out our 3D models of characters, we'll use something like an Insta360 camera here, because basically we can take multiple photos of an environment and create an HDR image. And that HDR image allows us to relight the environment and basically tell our 3D models where the light sources are, and it also adds realistic reflections for that real world environment. So the whole Boston Dynamics videos, you can watch this. Every single shot of the robot there is using an HDR map that we took during that shot on set. And that's what helps those robots just blend in so well with the environment. But, what's the big difference though between using this and that? Because they're both 360, we'll both get like 360 images from it.
Sure.
But what is the main difference with this and that?
I mean, the big difference is we're actually using LiDAR. So we're actually using a laser to collect measured points to create a 3D model, actually, a 3D point cloud.
So how does LiDAR work?
So LiDAR is using a laser from the inside. As you can see here, the laser's on the inside and it hits this mirror, this 45-degree angle mirror, and that mirror spins and it shoots out a laser point, and using time-of-flight technology, it's bouncing back and takes a measured data point, and so the data itself is actually scaled. But because of that, as this rotates, then this whole thing spins. You've got a single laser beam kind of going like this, and then it rotates 180 degrees. But then you're collecting, full 360 because you're capturing that slice all at once.
Gotcha. So that makes it so it can reconstruct the space in 3 dimensions instead of just 2.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Is there a camera on this as well then somewhere?
Yeah, there actually is. There's 3 cameras right here. So as it goes around, it's first stage it goes around, each one takes a snapshot. If you got the HDR turned on, it's 3-stage, so each one will fire off at 3 different lighting settings, and then as that goes around, it does 10 stops, so you essentially end up with 30 photos that are stitched together into one total of 150 megapixel image.
How big of a space can this thing scan? Could it do the whole, could it get all the way back there?
Yeah, actually, so from a single location, when it shoots out, it's got a maximum range of 60 meters, so about 200 feet. So that's in full 360. Essentially, the only kind of blind spot is pretty much the footprint of the actual tripod right here.
So, here in our loading dock, when we filmed our Boston Dynamics video, in order to get that robot looking like it's naturally in the scene, we would take our Insta360 cameras and we would scan a 360 HDR of this environment. And that image basically allows us to separate the bright points from the dark points and basically light our scene. So if you look around here, you can see there's like some lights there, we got some lights up here, and it basically, yeah, it's able to tell us where our light sources are coming from. However, there was one small issue that led us to have to basically redo that lighting. So, when you scan a 360 HDR of an environment, you're basically getting a giant sphere. That's what your image ends up looking like. You get a sphere that surrounds your environment. The problem though is that that sphere, it's not in 3 dimensions here, it's in 2. Imagine I'm inside a sphere here of light, but the problem is that when you scan it in 2 dimensions, that light sphere has to kind of move with you because it's at an infinite distance. It doesn't actually move with your scene or anything like that. So when you have an issue like this, where you have a scene that has a single top light, when you scan your HDR, whenever the character is standing directly beneath the light, it's going to look completely natural. But suddenly, if the character steps in 3D space away from it, that 360 HDR, it's not going to move away. It's going to stick with your scene. So when it came time to render that video and light it and do all that stuff, we had to basically go through and in 3 dimensions put light sources back where they were. So that made it so we couldn't like actually rely on just our image map to recreate the scene. However, when you start using this and you have the LiDAR that actually scans your environment in 3 dimensions, you can feasibly have a fully functioning 3D lighting environment that allows any characters to walk around in it and have the light sources react appropriately. It's a long-winded explanation, but I feel like that's as concise as I can possibly make it. But for real. So yeah, basically it makes it so your lights stick where they need to be. So let's try a scan here.
Yeah. So we do have a few different settings if you want on here. We can do low res, medium res, high res. So that's just a number of actual points you're taking. Then you can change the imagery to be LDR or HDR. So the longer, the higher resolution the actual point cloud is, the longer it takes. So it can range anywhere from a 40-second scan all the way up to about 6-minute scan, depending on the settings you use. Yeah.
Well, yeah. By the way, the musician upstairs is playing some extra like technology-driven music right now, so it's perfect.
Technology-driven music, inspired by technology.
Inspired by technology.
Pretty good.
The scans work?
This will be obviously a much denser point cloud once we're done, but it's just
sure. I mean, it already looks super great.
Yeah.
Crazy.
About a 1% preview of what the total point cloud will look like. It's kind of auto-adjusting. So each scan can range anywhere from like 40 seconds to 6 minutes or so.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. So
the texture
it does, but
too.
we're still figuring out like how to best extract that though. Yeah. Because like you're showing me like in the app when you look at lights, it'll do a little bit of that auto adjustment.
Yeah. So this is the actual photo 360 view. So looking directly from the point of the scanner, you just simply turn the HDR on, it'll auto adjust. It does have the thermal imaging actually as well. Just in the one view, it's like a 70-degree point of view, so you can see it's not all the way 360, but it is still the only LiDAR scanner on the market with any sort of thermal capabilities.
So the scan's done. How many scans was that? Like we went through the loading dock, through the hallway, studio.
So we did about 13, 14 scans.
Okay, so how are we gonna put all this data together?
All these scans really don't know where they are in 3D space, so it all comes to overlapping data. So every time we set it up, we make sure there's overlapping data between those, and then essentially like putting a puzzle together. We just have to pretty much help it out a little bit. So here's an example of a top-down view of the scans we've taken. These chunks, this chunk over here is one bundle that's all been together, and I've got two other scans that have not been registered yet. So all I have to do, I know this was over in front of the airsoft stuff, so if I just hit this link, press this scan right here, we've now got this top down just between these two, and we'll hit optimize and just see it snaps them together. We hit create link. So we'll do that one more time with this scan over here, just get it close to where it should be, say hey, register with that one, hit optimize, and it snaps it together.
Oh my god.
Create link.
That's so stupidly easy looking.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, because like each one of these files though is like super dense. There's like millions of points. Like they have to be huge file sizes. How the heck does this like work so quickly to align that stuff?
So what we're seeing here, this isn't fully processed data yet. It's just a low low res kind of preview image. So
Okay.
the raw data, you know, it's sitting on the BLK, then it transfers it over and just kind of initially does a process to it, because to fully process it, it can't quite handle it all on the iPad Pro. So once I dump this off onto the laptop, it'll finish processing, and then that's when it'll like fully essentially unzip all the real data. So yeah, this is just previewed stuff.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
like
then
because honestly, like of all the scans we've done though, like piecing multiple scans together is by far the most difficult thing I've ever tried to do, because like even if you're like we have a flat area and sometimes like it seems like you can connect them, the seams between the two like segments, chunks, whatever you want to call them, aren't even. So you have to kind of go through manually and like almost like polygon by polygon, like just connect every little tiny point. And there's millions of them, so it can be really lengthy.
For sure.
So like a good example though is also like when we were doing that anime self-driving cars video.
Yeah.
When we did our full road scan, we needed a longer road than the actual piece we scanned. So I ended up just duplicating it and aligning it, and but the problem is that the road texture was pretty good that we got from the scan, but the seams kind of killed the whole thing, which led us to basically just making our own road over the whole thing and just calling it a day. So it's simpler. So there were still seams all over the place in the video, but they're flying by so fast you can't see it.
So what's the next step with this? Do we know, or like the processing?
Yeah, I mean, for us, like us next steps, like for what we're trying to get to is like we're trying to get to having a full version of this model that we can use for upcoming videos, and potentially even to use as a virtual tour for anyone who wants to see what our studio is like. So how do we get there? Because this is a lot of data.
Dude,
this is a lot of data. Look at this.
Yeah.
Like this is crazy.
So again, this is just kind of like low res preview of the data. This will be a lot more solid, but it also kind of like almost a little X-ray view
so
kind
fun
of thing.
to just like
float
around and see.
Yeah. Once again, I keep bringing up this Boston Dynamics video because the whole process we went through for this video is like the complicated version of what we just did, of like having to rebuild the environment, measure everything, and project textures out. And for us though, like it's funny because when we're doing it, we're saying, screw it. These are all right angles. We're not measuring angles of anything. We're just assuming that everything is nice and straight. And so throughout the whole process, we're noticing inconsistencies all over the place, and we're just like, maybe we just suck and can't figure this out. But like, no, it's like things are just slightly off in real life.
Yeah. Pick a point, tap the screen, and then find a point.
You can just measure it. Oh my god, that's so cool.
Yeah. And you can change that in units and stuff, but anything you can see on here, you can just pull a measurement on. You can zoom in on it.
Sorry, this is just like the highest tech looking interface. Right? When you go to the map in the point cloud view, that overhead view,
it's like that sci-fi.
That's like it's like every video game you've ever played. It's like this is what you're looking at. Awesome. I'm really glad we got to do this, and hopefully we can get this out to you guys so that way you can take a look and see what our studio's like without having to fly out here.
Yeah.
The most convenient
Or work
thing.
here.
Or work here. Yeah.
Sweet. Appreciate it.
Cool, man.
Okay, sweet.